What is happening, Booth Junkies? Mike Dog Audio here, back with another video on home studio setup for voiceover. Oh yeah, got some new headphones on. We're going to talk about them. Got a new microphone in front of us. We're going to talk about it. Today, we're going to take a quick look at the new Pro X line of gear from Beyerdynamic that just came out. Super cool. And I need to say right up front that Beyerdynamic sent me this gear, all these devices, in consideration for the review. So you're going to see that little paid promotion tag, but it doesn't influence anything that I say about the review. They get no editorial input. They're not going to see this video before you do. They'll see them all at the same time. They just sent me the gear. I'm not paid, but I did get the gear to keep. So paid promotion. All right. Part the second, it's also important for me to note that a few months ago, Beyerdynamic actually reached out to me and sent me prototypes of both of the microphones that we're going to take a look at today. So I've actually had access to an early prototype version of the microphones for a little while. Beyerdynamic asked me for feedback on the devices, which I gave to them. I don't think there's anything like super special about me. I think I'm one of a bunch of people that they sought feedback from. But the end results, there were some changes, and you end up with these microphones and these headphones and so forth. Some of the feedback that I gave them was incorporated. Other feedback that I gave them was not. But I did want to mention that right up front, because I've had access for them for a while. They've asked me for my opinion, so you should know that for whatever, take it for whatever it's worth, that perhaps there's bias, influence there that I'm not even aware of. So I just want to disclose it so that you know. But it's not going to change the impressions of the gear. You're going to get to hear it. You're going to make a judgment call. If you watch my channel, you know that I don't actually make recommendations per se. I just really want you to hear the gear, see the gear, and to see if it's right for inclusion in your studio. Make sense? All right, let's keep going. The Pro X lineup is actually 4 devices at this time. There are 2 microphones. There's the cardioid condenser microphone, the M90 Pro X, which you're hearing right now. And there is a dynamic microphone, the M70 Pro X. Now, also released as part of this line, there are 2 different headphones. There's the closed back DT700s that you're seeing me wear, and then there's the DT990 Pro X open backs, all of which I have them all here for us to talk about, to take a look at. The headphones share a similar naming convention to other models in the Beyerdynamic line. There is the existing DT770 and the DT990. However, I went and looked on their website. All of those devices still exist, and the Pro X series, they're like a different price point than the 770s and the 990s. So I'm not sure if these are replacements for those other headphones, if they're going to continue alongside that. I don't have any information. I have no idea. I think we'll just have to wait and see. Let's start with the microphones. Let's take a look at this one here. This is the M90 Pro X cardioid condenser microphone, about $350. You're listening to it right now. This is the raw audio. I'm not doing anything to it, no post-processing. I'll adjust the gain a little bit between the microphones because they're different, but otherwise this is just the raw audio. You'll hear me swallow and mouth clicks and all that stuff. The M90 Pro X is a side address microphone, 34 millimeter capsule, but we speak into the side of it. And it seems to have been developed for voice recording, for voice work, given the sound signature. When we look at the sound signature, you'll see what I mean. Taking a look at the technical data, there are a couple of interesting things to note about the microphone. First is that they give you the frequency response curve of both the microphone under normal circumstances and with the proximity effect. This is cool, and I can't think of another microphone that I've seen where they give you the frequency response with the proximity effect. That's cool. But you'll notice that if you're backed off of the microphone, in this case they show it at a meter back, that it's reasonably flat from 50 hertz right up to about 4,000 hertz. And then there's a very significant presence boost from 5,000 hertz up to, call it 12,000 hertz. That's about 4 decibels across the line. So pretty significant presence boost for this microphone. Something that you would see in other microphones that are really designed for voice work. The TLM-103 from Neumann comes to mind as being very presence boosted, and a lot of voice actors like it. So maybe they certainly asked a voice actor for my opinion, so maybe one of their intentions is to see if this would work for voice actors. But overall, I'd say that their intention here is to give the microphone a more modern sound. Rather than a vintage, darker sound, this is definitely bright, crisp, clear microphone. And as you can see here, also, they give a polar pattern diagram. That's pretty common. But you can see that it's reasonably consistent for all the different frequencies as you move off axis on the polar pattern. So as you move off axis, it shows that you have at least 30 degrees of freedom on either side of the center of the microphone without any significant change to the tone. So as a voice actor, this is great because you worry about the change in tone as you move off axis. But if you're animated behind the microphone, you actually have a fair degree of freedom of movement behind the mic before your voice starts to change. And then based on the diagram, it says it won't change super significantly as you move even significantly off axis. So that's pretty handy. In the box, you get the microphone itself, of course. You get this custom plastic shock mount that's made to fit the M90 Pro X. It just fits in there exactly. And there's a little nut that secures the mic to the mount. It's a separate nut. It's a pretty low profile, but it's reasonably wide, so you'll need a little bit of room around it. It shouldn't interfere with anything. I have other microphones where it's just as wide, but much taller. Also in the box, you get this pop filter. This is made to clamp onto the microphone stand. It's not built into the shock mount as many other microphones that are sold as a kit are. This is just your very sort of bog standard nylon pop filter. And I'll say, at the $350 price point, I would have expected either no pop filter or a higher quality one, to be perfectly honest, and certainly one that's better integrated if they're going to sell this as a kit, because there's a lot of other microphones, really good microphones at a lower price point that do have integrated pop filters that are built right in, and it all makes a nice little compact package. If there's a spot that I was disappointed when I opened the box, it's with this pop filter. Nothing to write home about. It works fine, but it just seems really like an afterthought. It's not a spectacular piece of engineering, I'll say. Okay, let's switch microphones, and we'll talk about the other microphone in the Pro X series, and we'll let you take a listen to that one. Okay, the other mic is now in place. Also released as part of the Pro X line is the new M70 Pro X, and you're listening to it now. This is a dynamic microphone as opposed to the M90X, which is a condenser microphone. This one is a dynamic. The dynamics, typically the intention for them is more towards maybe live streaming, maybe podcasting. You can use it in sometimes a more forgiving acoustically. They're more forgiving to the acoustic environment, but it's a dynamic microphone, just a different style. You'll see it looks very similar to the M90 Pro X. However, you'll see that it's arranged differently. This one is an end address microphone as opposed to, you saw me speaking into the side of the M90X. Given how similar they look, given that the pop filter or the shock mount is exactly the same, you'll want to make note of a difference. The dynamic, you speak into the end of it. Okay, looking at the frequency response curve of the M70 Pro X microphone, we see that it clearly has the hallmarks of a dynamic mic. It doesn't go quite as low in the bass area. It doesn't go quite as high in the treble area. There's a bit more bass roll-off. There again, we see both with the proximity effect and without on the diagram. So as you get closer to the mic, it says that there's a significant boost almost 10 decibels when you get really close to it at around 100 hertz. Because it's not as sensitive, a little bit lower, you do get like a real peak at 100 hertz as you get close to it. But if you back off the microphone a little bit, you'll see that proximity effect won't be as prominent. But I will say that in a podcasting environment, often you can expect people to be right up close, like eating that microphone. And so you may find that you want to roll off or change the equalization at a high pass, either with a switch on your interface or with an equalizer, because neither of these microphones have any buttons or switches or anything like that with respect to high passing or any buttons or switches. So it could potentially get muddy sounding if you're really up close. And since there's no high pass filter on the mic, you'll have to do it after the fact with equalization. Like the M90 Pro X, the M70 is also very clearly presence boosted with the presence boost. It looks like here it begins all the way down at about 2 kilohertz with two peaks up at about 4 kilohertz and 8 kilohertz with a dip in between. And I'm guessing it's for de-essing or to reduce any sibilance that the capsule might introduce at around 5 kilohertz, which I know is where my S sound is. Many people's typical S sound is right there. So by having that little dip, it will smooth that S sound out. I think that's the intention, at least. We can also see that the frequency response does drop off quite a bit with the top end. It drops off earlier, and then at 18,000 hertz, you've lost it. It's pretty typical for a dynamic microphone. Similar to the M90 Pro X, the M70 Pro X comes with the microphone, and it also comes with essentially the same custom-fitted plastic shock mount and the pop filter. They're essentially interchangeable. They're the exact same in both kits. They look and act exactly the same. The inclusion of this pop filter, I think, is an even weirder choice for the M70X. A better solution probably could be created for this mic that isn't quite so intrusive. I don't think that this is the right setup. Even if it was just a foam clown nose that went over the end, I think would probably be a more beneficial solution than including this pop filter with the microphone. Interesting choice. Likewise, the shock mount is also an interesting choice for the M70 because this shock mount, being the same as the M90, makes it look like a side address microphone. If you weren't wise to it, looking at the two, they look the same. So I'm actually surprised that they didn't offer just a different form factor for the dynamic microphone, given that it's an end address nature. Maybe they're just trying to share parts between the microphones. It works, but I'm not sure it's the most aesthetic choice, and it could potentially lead to confusion in the initial use of the mic. Like I said, it works. It's just not exactly what you'd see a lot of times for dynamic microphones, but it works. Okay, a couple of final notes about the microphones. They do come, as with all of the Beyerdynamic packaging for the Pro X line, they all come in these recyclable cardboard boxes. And frankly, they don't look like they're meant to be durable or retained for a long time. They're not particularly long-lasting. They're just regular old cardboard. I think the intention is for you to recycle these boxes. The microphone comes with a neoprene bag to put the microphone in, but there isn't really a kit that holds it all together. So if you want to keep all of these parts together, you may need to maybe reinforce this box with some packing tape if you want to keep it for a long time. It's not going to fall apart in the first day, but I don't think it's going to be particularly long-lasting. I think Beyerdynamic is just trying to adopt a more eco-friendly packaging system that uses, in the packaging, there's essentially no plastic, no long-lasting plastic. And so it's very admirable. I have no complaints about it. It's just something that you should know about with the packaging. Let's turn our attention now to the headphones, the new headphones in the Pro X line. There are two new headphones that have been released. There's the DT770 Pro X that I'm wearing, and there's also the DT990 Pro X that are right here. They're both at the same price point of $299, at least on the website. That's the price point at the time that this video is made. We're going to first take a look at the DT700 Pro X's. Like the microphones, they come in the same recyclable cardboard boxes, and here I have definitely no complaints. This is a good choice because I don't think anybody's going to keep these in the box. They do supply a bag to keep the headphones in that will hold everything. These are over-the-ear studio headphones that are closed back. The DT700s are closed back. What that means is that they're good for monitoring. They're good for being in front of the microphone. That's why I'm wearing them now. They're good for the recording process. So if you're a voice actor, these would be the ones to use in the booth because the sound won't leak out very much, which means the microphone won't hear the leakage from your headphones. That's why we wear the closed back. These go over the ear. They don't touch my ear. They've been really comfortable. The cable, you see there's just one cable. It has a mini XLR jack on one ear. And on the other end, it's just a regular 3.5 millimeter jack with the standard 1/4-inch adapter. The kit comes with each pair of headphones comes with 2 cables that are just different lengths, so you can choose what's right for your studio. And as I said, there is a bag to store the headphones and all this stuff when not in use, so you don't need the box. The pads themselves, they're covered with velour, so they're very soft. I've worn them for reasonably long recording sessions during my testing, and I found them to be comfortable. There's no pain so far. It doesn't pinch. There's not super clampy. Nothing that hurts my ears. They don't actually make contact with my ears, so they are comfortable for a long time. They don't clamp too hard, but they do stay put. You can move your head somewhat vigorously, and they're not going to fall off. The headband is padded and it's made of spring steel. It is adjustable height-wise, but they don't fold up. So they're really made to just live in the studio. These are not really designed for travel. They don't fold up. Now, I will say, I've been a fan of the Beyerdynamic sound for a long time. I think these have a great sound. I've been very pleased with the DT700s. The sound signature, in my experience, has been consistent with the other Beyerdynamic headphones. They have a particular sound signature, and I think these match that. Good bass, clear high-frequency response, but they're not super hyped, but they do have good bass, especially the open back ones. There's more bass that you find in a lot of other open backs. But if you're familiar with the Beyerdynamic sound signature from either the DT770s or the DT990s, there should be no surprises here. Good, strong, rich sound. I'm sure there will be other more headphone-oriented channels that will be able to give you good details on the actual sound signature, what you can expect. I just say that these have a good, strong, rich sound that I'm comfortable making decisions with by wearing them. The impedance on the headphones is 48 ohms. I don't think I said that before. So any amplifier that you have will be able to drive them, including your phone, if you still have a headphone jack. But you don't need a special headphone amplifier. 48 ohms is plenty, is low enough that you'll be able to drive it with just about anything. Okay, let's switch back to the condenser microphone just so you can hear it again, and then we'll talk about the last set of headphones, the DT990 Pro X. Okay, so now I've put the M90 Pro X back in, and we'll talk about the last set of headphones in the new Beyerdynamic release, the DT900s. The DT990 Pro X headphones, they share a very similar look to the DT700s. They got the same velour pads. They've got the same spring steel headband. It extends pretty much in the same way. The headband is padded in the same way. They do not fold up. It's all pretty much, they're very, very similar form factor to the DT700s. Just going to set them down here. The primary difference is that these are open in the back. That means that they are less suitable for life in front of the microphone, but they are perhaps more appropriate for use in mixing and mastering decisions. They will often yield a better, more open sound that's clear, true when you're mixing and mastering. I've long used the DT990 Pros. They're right over here. The DT990 Pros in my booth. They've been my main sort of mixing, mastering headphones, the ones I make critical decisions with. And I feel like I've been able to make pretty good decisions with those. but the sound leaks out through these slots in the back. So other people will be able to hear what you're listening to. And if you're in front of a microphone, the microphone may hear them at an ever so slight delay, so they can interfere with your recording. Like the DT700s, they have a removable XLR cable with a removable cable with a mini XLR jack is what I want to say. And it goes into one ear, just the same. And the same 3.5 millimeter with the adapter on the other end, and with two lengths. So essentially the same cables. Beyerdynamic in the manual claims that the ear pads are removable if you need to replace them, or if you want to replace them. You can pull the velour pads off. If you do want to change the pads, they actually give you an instruction in there how to change the pads if you want to alter the sound, alter the comfort level. These pads are quite soft. And they're not memory foam. They spring right back, but they do squish down pretty significantly. They also provide instructions in the manual on how to change not only the ear pads, but also the headband pad, if you're so inclined, for comfort, for replacement if you damage it in some way. Like the DT700s, the DT990s are 48 ohm headphones, which means, again, any portable device will be able to drive them. You don't need an incredible headphone amplifier with tons of power to get good volume, get good clarity. And there you have it. That's the new Pro X line from Beyerdynamic. Just a quick look at everything. We'll have more sound tests, especially for the microphones in upcoming videos. But I do want to just reiterate my thanks to Beyerdynamic for sharing their gear with me and for seeking my opinion with the early release version. Very, very flattering. I was honored to be part of the release of this microphone. I hope that helps. Now, go grab yourself a microphone, maybe some headphones, but get out there and just go record something amazing. Thanks. We'll talk to you next time. Take care.